Cheers y'all, how's it going? This is that special time of year where you either have to love training or you have to learn to love it, because it is cold, the mornings are darker, there's a lot less people out, there's a lot less motivation, it's just you and your thoughts. It's also that time of year doing a lot of reflecting on how the year's been, goals I've accomplished, goals I haven't accomplished, start looking towards next year and planning for what's next, what's to come. So that's what this video is going to be about. Hopefully this works. I'm going out for a quick run. Today's run is just going to be some light, like steady state running, probably about 5 miles, do a quick warm up, and then probably 2 10-minute intervals at like a steady state pace with a little bit of rest in between, and then a cool down. So I'm gonna try to take you along for the run. I'm gonna try to talk a bit along the way, but I am remembering that my GoPro tends to not like the weather much once it drops below a certain temperature. So I'm hoping that it holds out, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, we are kicking things off with some light warm-up. Nice and easy to ease into the work for the day. Warm-up is always important, but so important in these colder months to make sure you're giving your body a chance to adjust, warm up, loosen up those muscles before, especially any kind of speed work, but any run, just taking the time that you need to get ready for the workout. But like I said, been spending a lot of time kind of thinking about this year, how things went. I think especially after Berlin, I was beating myself up a bit. Not about Berlin itself, that race went so much better than I was expecting, at least what I was thinking going into the race, but much different than what I was hoping when I first registered. And what I mean by that is just looking back over my goals for this year, the last couple years, I've set some pretty substantial, pretty lofty goals for myself and set aside what I thought was adequate time to prepare for those goals, putting in a full like 18, 22 week training plan. Again, just to give myself the time I need to get ready. But in a lot of those instances, I wasn't starting from a super solid base. I had a pretty good base running wise, but when it comes to any kind of speed work or anything like that, really wasn't doing anything. And so anticipated building up pretty quickly in those training plans. And in both Berlin and earlier in the year, planning for that 100-miler race, had some injuries that set me back pretty substantially in training, and ended up just kind of grinding through the miles as best I could to be healthy for race day. So again, the goal for the 100-miler was just to finish, so knock that off. And Berlin performed much better than I thought I was going to given the injury, but would have liked to have been able to put some more speed work in and maybe shoot for some of those PRs. So like I said, been beating myself up a little bit about that, but over the last week or so, instead trying to focus on, you know, I finished a 100-miler this year and I got to run a marathon in Berlin. And so that's kind of my mindset for wrapping up 2023 is, sure, there were some ups and downs, sure, there were some hiccups, but all in all, 2 pretty substantial goals, 2 pretty cool runs I got to accomplish. Let's use that to fuel some of the exciting prospects for 2024. All right, warm up done. Time for the first 10-minute interval. First 10-minute interval done. Again, just outside my comfort zone, which today looks like it's hovering between like 8.5 and a 9-minute mile. Just want to give a quick shout out to the new Saucony Kinvaras. Not super new to me, Kinvara 14s. This is my 3rd run in them. I am absolutely loving these shoes. You can check out my full review if you're interested, but they are so cozy, so springy. I do need some warmer socks, I think, because they're so minimalist. I mean, the wind just cuts right through the mesh. So for these winter runs, might need to beef up my sock game, but really enjoying the run in these. All right, decided to jog it out for this rest interval, but looking ahead, looking towards the future, goals for next year. I talked about this a little bit in a past video, but looking back even further, doing some kind of long-term reflection, my most successful year in terms of mileage, but also hitting like some landmark goals for myself, was 2019 into 2020, kind of the very beginning of 2020. Hit a marathon PR in spring training, and then through the fall, I was training for my first ultra marathon, the Bandera 100K, which was like I think the first or second week in January. So peak training was right at the end of 2019. So in terms of mileage, by far my highest mileage year, and I've been kind of on a slow down slope since then, trying to work my way up. Another huge impact of that was I was working with a coach at the time, so my accountability was much higher, having more than just myself holding me accountable. But the other thing that was different was kind of 2018, 2019, I set much smaller goals for myself in terms of time blocks. Whereas more recently, I've been splitting into kind of like a big spring goal and a big fall goal. Back then, I was just looking at goals month to month, usually like a monthly mileage goal, trying to do like at least an average a mile a day or 2 miles a day. And that really worked for me. It gave me something to work towards kind of every day, as opposed to having something way off in the distance I was working towards. And if there were small hiccups along the way, it was much easier to compensate for. So moving into this year, I'm hoping to go back to that mindset in terms of my goal setting, while also working towards much shorter distance races, distance goals. I mentioned looking at like 5Ks, 10Ks, but then also racing a bit more frequently, so that if something comes up, if something goes wrong, it's not that much time before I can take another attempt at it. So with that being said, I've started to map out what my race calendar is gonna look like, at least for the next few months. I've got a Santa Suit 5K coming up quick. That's December 16th. You get an actual Santa suit with your registration. So that's more of just a fun run. Like, that's just gonna be a blast, I feel like. But always good to get some race mileage under the legs. So I'll have that in December. I don't have anything yet in January, but then tail end of February, Gasparilla Distance Classic. Going a little off the plan here, a little crazy. That's the race where I'm running 4 races in one weekend. So that'll be a 15K and a 5K on Saturday, and then a half marathon and 8K on Sunday. But I've been dying to run this race since I graduated from University of Tampa back in 2013. So just very excited to finally be getting back to run that race. So I'll have that in February. March, April, I'm considering Hot Chocolate 15K again. Absolutely love that race. I might even downgrade to the 5K just because I like the idea of working towards a 5K PR again. And then early May is gonna be the Broad Street 10 miler. So a lot different than my usual plan of kind of like one big race in the spring and fall, and just looking forward to more frequent races. But with that being said, it's time for this next interval. Second interval done. All that's left is a little over a half mile to just cool down, jog it out. But all of this video is to say, going back to kind of that initial point, that this is the time of the year when you really have to learn to embrace the suck and just love the process, love training. But that's also kind of my goal for next year. Instead of setting some more elaborate race goals, right now. I'm just looking at the training piece and trying to build in some efficient and healthy variables into my training that are going to lead to me hopefully being more successful when I do start building those lofty goals in again. So instead of setting race goals, setting training goals. Like I said, those shorter intervals. What's the mileage that I want to hit this month? Maybe it'll be hitting certain paces in an interval training session, etc. I'm setting goals for myself in the training itself as opposed to lofty race PRs, in the hopes that I'll be able to find more success and be able to build in more intensity to some lower volume training this upcoming year. All right, run and done. I think the video took a bit of a turn, went a little off the rails from what I originally planned to talk about, but I think we tied it all back together nicely. It's all about enjoying the training, however, whatever that might mean to you. So if you made it this far in the video, I hope you'll let me know some of the goals you accomplished this year. What are your biggest accomplishments from 2023? Also, what are the goals you're setting for yourself for next year? I hope your training is going well as we reach the time of the year where sort of those big training blocks end and we start putting together the building blocks that are hopefully going to make up next year's successes. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.